Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Moss, host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. Listen, I hope that you're having a fabulous Wednesday. It just seems like the week is moving forward. And let me give a shout out to the East Coast. Please, happy thawing out. It has been a really rough week for you. Freezing temperatures, sleet. You know, my mama's house had to get dug out by a whole four-man crew. And for all of the seniors that suffered through it, I want you to know that your brother, Preacher Moss, your young Preacher Moss, your young brother, Preacher Moss, is praying for you, and I hope that you're all right. And I want to give a shout out to all of the EMTs and rescue workers they went far beyond what they could do. Sometimes, you have weather events, and it's just overwhelming. It lets us know what our capacity is, what our particular bandwidth is. And another note I want to give, this is a totally different note. The mother of Savannah Guthrie of the Today Show, Miss Natalie Guthrie, we pray that she has a safe return. It is the oddest thing when somebody, it's emotional when something happens to an elder, but the whole idea that maybe an elder was taken and kidnapped or done harm to is above and beyond the level of stress and trauma that anybody wants to deal with. And we just hope whoever's out there, if it's a mistake, we can move on for it. Please return that sister. Please return that elder back to her home, and because she has plenty of people love her. There's people that don't even know her, and we're just concerned about her well-being, and we hope that he comes back. On that note, I also want to give a shout out to my third mom, Sister Fitra Muhammad. We hope that you're doing well. I had the pleasure of seeing her about a week and a half ago. We sat, we talked. You know, I'm just gonna say, if you have any duas, extra duas, strong duas, send them please to George Washington Hospital. Send them to the DC area, care of Sister Fitra Muhammad, who's a near and dear, uh, I want to say, priceless, priceless jewel in our community, and she's done so much. And we're just hoping that her situation rectifies and she comes out on top. That's it. Our topic today, brotherhood. When you know, you know. Now, somebody gonna say, "Why'd you do sisterhood?" Clearly, I'm not a sister. But I thought this topic was particularly interesting as I begin to look at the collective of how people are, I want to say, gelling with one another in the context of what's going on in current society. You see, there's a new, if you will, I want to say a new demographic that's forming that many of us are not really privy to. That's because sometimes we're on the other side. You know, there have been some classic brotherhoods, good, bad, in between. You have everything from the Klan to the Firemen's Association to uh, Christians, Muslims. We have all of this cadre of brotherhoods. But I thought the thing was, you know what? Why don't we take a time? Why don't we look at it and say, why don't we look at the crux, if you will, of brotherhood? The things and the metrics that pull people together, different backgrounds, sometimes different religions, sometimes different political associations, sometimes different business philosophical agreements that pull people together in the scope, if we hope that we want to see something better come out of it. You know, I was sitting here thinking, I was writing, doing some writing, and I I came across the story of a man. They call him the Potato King. Now, for clarity, I'm not going to go into his whole story name, but it was just the idea that this is a man who came from down south. He was born into slavery. His parents were born into slavery. They were on different plantations. He got an opportunity to be free after the Emancipation Proclamation. He goes to Kansas. He finds that everything that's been promised out there is probably worse than what it was when he was down south. But himself, he dedicates himself to learning how to be free. Not just free in terms of your actual physical liberty. I'm talking about free in the context of business environment, free in the context of entrepreneurship. And what I thought about, and this is the 1800s now. So you got to realize black people aren't getting loans. Not getting loans. We're not doing debt reduction. You know, people are not calling you up. Do you need money for your business? Nobody's calling up because we don't have phones at this point in time. I am talking about somehow, somewhere, the ethic has been installed in this guy that he takes on this process. He actually winds up being a sharecropper. He actually winds up being a sharecropper working for somebody, which is probably worse than slavery. But he comes out of that. He comes out of that and he gets land. He buys land and he produces potatoes. The thing is, he is prolific in producing these potatoes. So the farm next door creates 200 bushels worth of potatoes. He's doing 600. You did 400. I'm doing 1,200. And what it is that he has uh, a natural gift and anointing, if you will, to work the soil to produce more potatoes to the point where he literally becomes rich. The railroad actually builds a railroad to his town specifically to get his potatoes because that's how prolific it is. And I said to myself, that doesn't happen isolated. That doesn't happen by itself. And in further digging, it was the fact that he had a brotherhood of people who were like minded when needed to be, but they also thought differently when they needed to be as well. Let me explain. Yes, they all wanted to progress, but they all knew they could not do the same thing, right? What does that mean? As I begin to expand on this whole idea of brotherhood today, is that we have a collective of people who are, as I referred to last week, poison, poison from the well of what? Groupthink. Poison from the well of groupthink. Now, we can all want something good, but there needs to be a variance of opinion on how to get there. If you will, there needs a chain of command, infrastructure, and sometimes you just need to have good-hearted, healthy debate because in the end, you're trying to come up with the best solution. And what I see on society today is brotherhoods that are being formed that do not do that. The latest brotherhood, which we're not talking about, but we should be talking about, is ICE. Is ICE. Immigration, Customs Enforcement, ICE, who have built a brotherhood framed around the idea that if you get enough money, you can do whatever the hell you want to. Framed around the idea that if the government says I could do it, I'll do it. Framed around the idea that I can assault other people's freedoms as long, doesn't matter if I know it's right or wrong, as long as there's permissibility to do so, I would do that. You know, we talk about people going home and being sent back to Venezuela, sent back to, there's a couple people been sent back to Africa too, just so y'all know. You know, I don't feel like black people, ICE tried to send us back. We ain't going back to Africa. We going back to slavery. But I'll save that idea for another point. The thing that I want everybody to know and feel is we need to do a much more deep dive in the idea of effective brotherhood. In the black community, we have something, and maybe they have in the white community too. We have something called you have a play brother. Now, many of you know my story. I'm an only child, but I have tons of play brothers, tons of play sisters. So it's never that I wanted for a brother and sister outside of the basic want when you don't have it. When you're only child, that's a whole nother different conversation. But the idea that you were, in many regards, a part of something. My brotherhood, it's of course my friends that I grew up with, but I found other brotherhoods. My college brotherhood, I found sports. That was another alliance brotherhood. And I think the thing is, these days we've lost that. Because the thing about sports, even the thing about brotherhood in church, is that there was a responsibility that bear it out. A responsibility that bear it out. And the way it bear it out is that we had to look at the merits of the person that we were dealing with, right? To make a team, to make a football team or basketball team or baseball team, it was based on merits. And the merits of making the team, having proficiency, having a skill, having a talent for that particular field, bowed to the fact that the brotherhood would rally around that. Civil rights, it's the same thing. I would say, even coming out of civil rights, and we can argue and contest it if we want to, but the sisterhood the sisterhood within the civil rights movement was probably stronger than the brotherhood within the civil rights movement. As you begin, this Black History Month, you begin to see that there were, per se, people who came before Rosa Parks got on the bus and did what she did as a 15-year-old girl. And even this point begs the issue. It's like, well, what happened? What happened? What happened to the scope that we are employing metrics? We are employing meritocracy with people that we love, people that we see want to grow, people that we want to see successful. How did we get away from that? The times, I joke about pickleball, right? Pickleball creates this community for anybody that's played before. It creates this community. And the way they create the community is you don't really need to know who it is you're playing with. That's amazing. What you do is you put your paddle down when they court opens. They say court open. You grab paddles, da da da, and you are playing with whoever you want. And your, if you will, introduction is brief. Hi, my name is Preach. What's your name? Oh, my name is Tim. That's our team. And what is borne out between myself and Tim in this hypothetical is the fact that we're playing a game that requires us to bring talents, trust, and understanding of one's limitations, or outside of limitations, the things that are extremely positive, your gifts, if you will, to this particular game. I say it's no wonder that pickleball is very popular today because it doesn't require you to be sophisticated with social skills. It doesn't mean that you have to spend time trying to learn. The game is there to be played, and the social conductor is within the game. Shout out to my brother Rick. He got me in pickleball years ago. I'm gonna give him some love. But I just want you guys to marinate on this whole idea of brotherhood. We're gonna be right back. Let's start the show. Sorry, Satana. Let's start the show. Preacher Moss, shout out show. Don't you move. All right, we're back. Shout out to Instagram land. Satana. I forgot to start Instagram. So forgive me, people on Instagram. It's just the fact that Satana is back. I done lost my whole place. I'm not used to Satana being here, and I overlook stuff. But we're happy to have you back, Satana. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Shout out to Houston doing a Resilience Con, an incredible conference. Everybody who came, everybody had intentions to come. Come next year. It was something you don't want to miss. On a shout out, let's give a shout out to everybody. A shout out, family. Shout out to Sister Ree. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. She says, hello, family. Hello to you, Sister Ree. You, Derek. Jawan, hope you're doing well. Next up, we got my main man. Of course, I'll talk for Sheed. What's going on, brother? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'll talk for we call Mr. 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down. A Canadian envoy to the show. Good to see you. And next up, my little brother JT. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good sir. We got to get our talk on, find out who's going to win this Super Bowl. So we got to get our chatter going. And thank you so much, man. I got to give you a call. Hope all is well. Peace and blessings to the family. Next up, we got brother Eric. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh from South Kakalaki. What's going on, beloved? Hope everything's swift down there. Did you guys get snow down there? I know you got some cold weather, but let me know if you got some snow down there. All right, good to see you in the house. Steve Brown. Steve Brown is a very funny man. Steve, I love you, and I'm sorry about the loss of mom. I do owe you a call, brother, so be patient with your little brother. It's nice to see you on here, man. Like I said, it's okay. You won't be able to watch. It's okay. I got it. You're gonna listen to this thing later, but it's all right, man. I appreciate you. Much love to you. Steve Brown from Milwaukee. Okay. And of course, we got Ree being all extras talking about welcome back sister, talking about Sister Satana. Welcome back, sis. Well, what is the show without Sister Satana? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What is the show without Sister Satana? Um, kind of hard. No, just kidding. Actually, you guys don't really get. I wish we had a show where it was a show before the show. You can see some of the things that Sister Tana and talk about. I am always indebted when she's able to come. She did yeoman's work on this conference, and at some point in time, we just had to step back and let her do her thing, let her work her magic, and we're glad to have her back. Okay. Oh, Eric said yes. We got snow 2 times. All right, brother. All right. So let me get back on this conversation. I say brotherhood when you know, you know. I think a lot of people discredit the power of fluidity and the power of connection. The power of fluidity and the power of connection. I don't want to sound like, really tart or didactic about this. It is not that kind of talk. It's just being able to acknowledge and keep a stream of consciousness, if you will, with understanding the forbearance of everybody else's existence. Understanding the forbearance of everybody else's existence. I talked about the Potato King, but you know what? I could look at the article and it didn't really talk about his brothers or sisters or the community around him. But I felt in my soul, my eternal soul, that this guy, when he moved out to Kansas, he didn't go out by himself. That in further due diligence, if you will, there were thousands of Black people that moved out to Kansas. And we say, how do you survive in the 1880s and 1870s when everything is against you? And it's the fact that they have well-defined, divinely inspired systems of foundations, if you will, of brotherhood and sisterhood. It is funny because I grew up in the 60s, Black is beautiful, things like that, those type of slogans. I grew up in the 60s and I began to look at what those communities look like. And not just like the Black Panthers, and before there was, the Sunni move, the Islam, the Nation of Islam. And I began to look at, in a very, very deep perspective, what it took for those things to persevere. What is it that comes out of the cotton fields of the South, comes to the North, seeking jobs in the factory, but at the same time, and they didn't have the union, if you will, but at the same time, develop culture that's built upon these particular type of relationships. I say brotherhood when you know, you know. You always hear stories, in the Black community. Man, I feel like I know you. I feel like I've been known this a long time. Sisters, I know I knew you in another life. I heard all that stuff. And what it is fun because we're connected on commonalities, and not just what we do, but what our parents did, but what our grandparents did. In the effort of establishing, hear me now, in the effort of establishing an environment. And what we have now is an attack on that environment. The okey doke, the okey doke, the flim flam, the idea of it's over here and that's over here to keep us polluted. And I think this is a good word, to keep us spiritually polluted so that we don't connect with one another. Check the statistics. Chicago is a place where they sent ICE and National Guards at a time, and you guys notice, at a time when crime was low. All the crime statistics are low. And why is that happening? Particularly amongst African Americans. Because the quotient of brotherhood has changed, right? When I say the quotient of brotherhood has changed, look, I'm old enough to remember the East Coast, West Coast war, which is artists, quote unquote, at each other's necks, the Crips, the Bloods. I remember all of this. And now if you put your ear out there, you may hear some of that. You may hear some of that, right? But it's not at a level it was because, people. And I want to shout out our community, and I want to shout out other communities too, the Latino community, even the Muslim community. I want to shout out because we reduce the noise. That people whispering in our ear, Shaitan whispering in our ear, is not the thing that we listen to. Because even if you deal with Shaitan, there's a Satan is an easy way to deal with Satan. You say, "What have you built? Show me one thing positive that you have built. Show me one positive relationship that you've helped culture or nurture." It's a short conversation. That's why I say, hey, brotherhood when you know, because we're evolved out of that. We're evolved out of that. There's a spiritual texture that in the toughest of times produces genius. Whether it be our children, our daughters, our sons, whether it be our technological proficiency, sports if you need it, arts if you need it. It comes from a culture that even in the jazz community, there's a brotherhood. And in a jazz community, it wasn't so much keeping people employed, it was protecting the culture. Well, this is a culture to help people feed their families. In the comedy tradition, it's not as good because, comedians were mercenaries, right? It's hard for comedians to be happy for another comedian, truly to be happy for another comedian, because we're taught, we cool with you until you're better than us. We're cool with you till you have more than us. I don't go through all that. I got a whole level because I was a teacher, so that took it out of me. I was a public school teacher, so that beat it out of me. My job was to mentor and develop brotherhood amongst young black men, young black and Latino men. That's what I did. And then that motto, it cured my heart of a lot of things. But what I'm saying though is, let me be clear. Are we investing time in brotherhood? Are we investing time, okay, in sisterhood? Meaning that what's being brought to us, if you will, is cultish. MAGA is a cult. Did I say that? Well, let me say it twice. MAGA is a cult. MAGA is a cult. Why? Because you have a combination of people who come together, and there's no mention of accountability. There's no mention of personal responsibility. You know why? Because it's the absence of meritocracy. And then the weirdness of it, they look at everybody else and go, how did you earn it? How did you get that? Joke I just wrote about racism. I said, you know what I hate about racism? Anybody could do it. And in that space, it creates something. In my moves, if you will, logistically from DC to go to school and Milwaukee and Marquette to go pursue comedy in LA, I was fortunate enough that I had people that had like brotherhood relations with, a big brother, little brother. You always heard me talk about my big brother, Reginald's Kitchen, man. I'll be pleased with him. But, he had a network of people that I could go to in different times, of people that I could refer to. Even though he's been gone since 2020, I still have people that pick up the phone and go, hey, I need to talk. Or better yet, hey, I pick up the phone and go, how are you and how are your family? How is your family? Because this is the message that maybe we don't talk about. Maybe it's something that's missing. No, we have a few people in Instagram land. Let me do this. Let me see. Who is little Ali? How you doing? Sister Tana. Walaikum assalam. Islamic. Okay, Islamic up for you. Thank you. Scotty Bikes. What's up, baby? We need to talk. Sister Zobaida Fala from Toledo. How you doing? We got listen to Hatima. Okay, Sister Ruth from Houston. Umisa, what's up, little sis? Coming from California. Good to see you. So let me build on. We got Brother Rush. Hey, what's up, Bilal? Are you with the Queen? Either way, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi to you and your Queen. Good brother, good to see you on the spot. Oh, he said, oh, everybody's there. Everybody's there. And shout out, we want to celebrate brother Bilal, his granddaughter. is graduating from how do I say it? Is it um, basic training basic training school? Either way, um, I saw the picture. Congrats to her. When you see it, give her a big hug from all of us here on the Shout Out Show. Okay, now look, we're at a little bit of time here. So let me give you a recap of some things. What I was saying, because I want to make sure that they don't leave us. Brotherhood, when you know, you know. And sisterhood, when you know too. That there is an impetus, if you will. True brotherhood is built on meritocracy. That you earn respect. That, and it's hard to say that you earn respect, but you share the respect that you've gotten. That when I say share the respect, you use it to promote things. You use it to see better versions of your community, of your brotherhood, of your family, of yourself. That's number one. Number two, the fluidity, the line of consciousness that we have been missing because, we're trying to find it all on uh, social media and things like that, and thread and stuff like that. These are disruptors of traditional brotherhood. They are disruptors of traditional brotherhood because, you know, it allows us to somehow assume that even if I don't see you, I can assume that you're okay. Even if I don't talk to you a while, I can assume that things are right. You can put something on Instagram. I hate this. You say how and so's doing. This person actually said, "Well, I went on their Instagram," and I said, "You went on their Instagram? Did you call them?" Satana, have you heard that before? I checked their Instagram. You check I checked their Facebook. You check their Facebook. I ain't never heard that before. But I'm hearing it now. But that is again a direct assault on the whole idea of fluidity and kind of take a call. Take a call, make a call. In fact, I'm gonna allow for people to do a text as long as you don't do it in the house with the same person who's in the house with you. I go ahead and do a text. I hate that too. But the other point is my thoughts. And I reflect back to the Potato King. That in the history that was presented about the Potato King, they just talked about him. And they did mention his wife. But in doing the due diligence, you talked about the community that supported the Potato King, that made it in earnest to get him. You have to understand in that time, and we've lost this in many regards. In that time, there was a thing that you lifted up the best and the brightest. That in a historical norm, you lifted up the best and the brightest. The people in their community who knew they weren't going to be able to go to school, they weren't going to be doctors and lawyers. They would meet in these town halls and they collect money and send that boy to college, hoping that that person is going to be the star, and they'll come back to help us resurrect ourselves. Doesn't happen that much now. It did with the Potato King, but that's probably another story. Maybe I need to do a show on the Potato King. But let me say this and let me get to the point and wrap up. Start creating new narratives. It's a shame that in the United States of America, with a constitution and democracy, that ICE is the new brotherhood. They're better financed and better weaponized than the Crips and the Bloods. That ICE is the new brotherhood. That illegalities that are not called out, illegalities that are put forward have allowed us this situation, that this is the new family. And it can't exist. I'm going to go to the wrap. I just want you guys and ladies in your prospective spaces, call those people in your brotherhood chain. Call those people in your sisterhood chain. Talk about let's be a meritocracy and let's be better versions of ourselves. I'm Preacher Moss. This is the Shout Out Show. See you guys later. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brotherhood.